Welcome to another episode of OG55 Live. I got Mr. Jay Sherer, Tonez, Poppy, and the Italiano with me today. We're answering your questions in regards to the studio and theme parks. We're also talking about the box office. Disney, are they back? They had a really rough year last year, but are they rebounding? We're going to talk about it, discuss it up next on OG55 Live. Welcome aboard, everybody, to another episode of OG55 Live. We are taking your questions about the studio. We'll also take some park questions, and we're going to talk about, is Disney back in regards to the box office? Before we start, though, I'll start with you, Mr. George the Italiano. If you could let everybody at home know where they can find you on social media, sir.
Absolutely. You can find me on X, formerly known as Twitter, at Disney George. You could also find me on Instagram under the Disney Italiano. And, of course, you can find me right here on my home base at Orange Grove 55 with Citrus Corner, with all that sweet, juicy, but sometimes sticky Disney news and info.
There we go. Giving everybody the Italiano experience, huh, George? Mr. Jay Sherer back in the house. Jay, it's always good to have you on, brother.
Oh, it's always a pleasure to be here. I showed up with my early 2000s facial hairstyle, so I'm good to go. I'm glad we're talking about this, and I can't wait to see the questions from the chat. So chat, come up with some fantastic questions for us, because I want to have some fantastic answers. I can't promise anything, but I'll try.
Perfect. And Mr. Tonez, Poppy, welcome back, sir.
Always a pleasure talking to you boys. We had a good conversation on my channel the other day, and I'm so glad you guys invited me for this one. It's always good talking to you guys about specifically Disney stuff that I know about. You know what I'm saying? The studio stuff. But I can't wait to talk about the park as well.
Absolutely. And you know what, Jeff? I forgot to ask you, where can they find you on social media? Then I'll go to you, Tonez.
Oh, yeah. You can find me on YouTube, right here on OG55. I haven't done a Story Geek show. We haven't done a Story Geek show in a long time. I've had so much work that I have not been able to do a lot of extra stuff. But hopefully we got to talk about Deadpool and Wolverine at some point in time, right? I mean, we're talking about it here, but in a different context. You can find me on YouTube also at How Stories Work with Jay Sherer. And occasionally I'm on Twitter every once in a while.
Every once in a while. Yeah. Tonez, Poppy, where can they find you, sir?
Yeah, when he does tweet, it's like, whoa, is that Jay?
Yeah. Who's this?
Jay is the gift king, by the way. He's the absolute, like the GOAT when it comes to gifts, man.
Absolutely. Yeah, if you guys want to find me on social media, Tonez_TV on all platforms. You guys can follow my YouTube channel, Bad Thoughts Studio. We do a bunch of TV shows, movies, breakdowns, trailer reactions, so you guys can find that on YouTube. And also we just are announcing stuff on our podcast channel, Bad Thoughts Podcast. We are adding 2 new people to our podcast. It's gonna be 2 good friends of ours, and we're so excited for that. But if you guys do want to follow that on YouTube and Spotify, it's Bad Thoughts Podcast.
Perfect. So Bad Thoughts, okay, so that's where this one came from, huh?
No, I don't know who that is. Shout out to them, though.
Absolutely, 100%. All right, so let's dive into our first topic, which is the studio, Disney, right? Like last year was really rough. You know, they had a bunch of like mid movies out there and just some downright flops. It was a really, really rough year for Disney. This year is a lot better. You know, we got Deadpool and Wolverine. Obviously, Inside Out 2 is absolutely crushing it. We can even kind of add Alien Romulus. I know Seymour Duck has a question about that, but that's technically a Disney movie now, oddly enough. We also got Moana 2, you know, not too far from now. We got Fantastic Four. So we have some real big hits already. We have some potential hits, you know, out there on the horizon. I'll start with you, Jay. What do you think, man? You think that Disney is back? Are we going to see the Disney of like 2015, or are those days kind of over?
Ooh, that's a good question. So Matt Bellany just did a show. What's the name of his show? Whatever Matt Bellany's show is. He's awesome. He's a great person. You should go listen to him.
I think it's On the Town, if I'm not mistaken.
The Town. It's The Town. There you go.
The
Town. He just did a show about like monetarily Disney just killed everybody during the summer. I mean, the summer was Disney's summer. Like it was a full Disney summer. They beat everybody easy. I think that and I think that they're going to do great the rest of the year too. I don't know that we're going to go back to 2015 levels, but Disney has a different problem on its hands, I think, as it's related to this year's success. And this is the problem that I think they're dealing with. This year's success does not necessarily set them up for future years of success. So, like, for example, when we were in the middle of the MCU, you knew that, like, okay, every time they put out a banger, like Civil War 2016, right? Huge year for Disney. Every time they put out a banger, they're going to put out another banger, right? That is not true this year. You don't know. Like the Deadpool and Wolverine does not solve the MCU. It doesn't even solve the MCU a little bit. Like, the MCU still has the MCU's problems. They just had a banger movie in the middle of this year. I think it's the same thing for Inside Out 2. That doesn't solve Pixar's problems long term. Pixar has to figure that out. Now, are they taking the right steps? Absolutely. They're taking great steps. But to me, none of the successes that I've seen this year indicate that there's a future success on the horizon. They have it in some properties. I think in Fox with Avatar, the next Avatar is gonna be a banger, right? Like, we just know. Yeah. Like, you saw the first two, they were all bangers. We're gonna go see the third one. But a lot of what Disney is putting out there this year, I don't think solves the longer term problem. So I'm super stoked because Disney's having a fantastic year. I love Disney movies. I can't wait to see some of the ones I haven't seen yet. But it doesn't make me more likely to go see the next MCU film.
That's a great point.
Really quick, I just have to say before Jay just crushed all our hopes and dreams. No, but I mean, he does make a great point about that, because that's the one thing that not even just Disney, but any kind of major corporation or company, you cannot rely on your laurels to say, okay, this solidifies that Disney is back. Like, right now, this year, Disney is back for this year, but they can't get comfortable that moving forward to then say, okay, well, we had a banger of a summer, Inside Out 2 exceeded expectations and what have you. Oh, so that's what it's going to go for Elio and Hoppers.
Not necessarily.
We don't really know that for sure. It has to go on, is Elio and Hoppers, do they have a great storyline? Is there a great plot? Are there memorable characters? Is there something that people can relate to? It's not of, oh, okay, well, Inside Out 2 did great. So obviously Elio and Hoppers is gonna do, banger numbers. Because we also have to remember too, especially with Elio's kind of the wild card when it comes to Pixar right now, because technically Elio got delayed in production so many times that the outcome of what this movie could potentially, and I don't want to be a Debbie Downer, but we could see in the Chapek era, because this movie was in that production during that time.
That's a great point, Italiano, because we talk a lot about on this channel, like, residual stuff. A lot of people are like, oh, well, this movie it comes out now, so it's a now problem. Well, a movie released today is really a 2021 product, essentially, right? So that's a great point. And Jay, you bring up a fantastic point, because it's one thing to have Inside Out 2 or even a Deadpool and Wolverine do banger numbers. These are kind of existing brands with a built-in audience. I'm saying? This is a third Deadpool movie, the second Inside Out. Okay, you already have that built-in audience. It's a little less of a hurdle to climb. But how's Elio going to do an original movie? Like George was saying, how's Hopper going to do? How's Walt Disney Studios or Animation Studios next original film going to do?
Yep.
That's where I think we can start to see if Disney's actually back or not. When these original films, live action and in animation, when those start to do banger numbers again, I think we can say they're back. But the sequels, it's great for the balance sheet. It's great for the financials. But you're right. It's not indicative of an overall return quite yet. Like you said, Jay, they're on their way. I think, and look, we actually did a great panel at D23. It was directing animation, and Jennifer Lee was there from Disney, and Pete Docter. And I got to say, I turned to George during that panel. I said, I'm really impressed with the mindset of these creatives at Disney. Disney has really good creative people working there. I mean, I was really impressed with, actually, to be honest with you, with Jennifer Lee. She was phenomenal. I have no doubt that they have the chops to make great stuff. It's just a matter of, is Burbank gonna get involved, and then it's not going to be the product that they're envisioning, because I'm telling you, after watching that panel, I have no doubt these people are competent and capable enough to do the thing. It's just there's a lot of other kind of cooks in the kitchen that might come and kind of mess that up. What say you, Tones Poppy? What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I see the animation has been killing it lately. So that's a plus. I think the live action and the Marvel stuff is kind of where I personally think is going to be a hit or miss. We have potential movies that are coming out that we wanted years ago. Fantastic Four, you know, the Mandalorian movie that's coming out, like stuff like that is like we're getting good movies, and so it has the potential. It's on its way, and like Jay said, it's like right now we can't really say it's back at the moment. For this year, I guess it is, because we've Inside Out 2 is one of the most gross box office in the like all year, which is a fucking fantastic thing. And you know, they're on their way to doing great stuff, but it's just like George said, don't get comfortable. Keep fucking riding this wave. Keep going with it, because all the movies that are coming out, people want, like Avatar. Who doesn't want to go see Avatar? Like Fantastic Four. We just got Deadpool, which was, don't get me wrong, Deadpool was a great movie. The cameos is what made everyone so happy to watch it. Storyline was a hit or miss, whatever your preference was. To me, wasn't a huge fan of the storyline, but at the same time, it was something that the fans wanted. Deadpool was that movie that I don't necessarily think is what's the word? I guess what we were looking for as far as like, seeing a great future, but we got a good movie. So that's what it was. The last Marvel movie we've had in the last 5 years that was actually, fucking really good. So I don't know. I see a potential greatness coming up with all these announcements that was at D23 and Comic-Con and all that stuff. We got to see Fantastic Four, a little bit of Galactus, which I thought was fantastic. So I'm excited for it, but I would say it has the potential of being great. But as of this year, like, keep it this way, like keep it going. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly. Stay hungry, and here's the other thing too, and this is kind of a wild card, but okay, so we all know John Lasseter got unceremoniously booted from the company. I think it was like in 2018ish, I believe. Yeah. 18. He got caught up in the Me Too stuff, and he's been gone, right? And look, regardless of what you think of him as a person, creatively, the dude seems to know what he's doing. He built Pixar, and he even did great things for the parks. What I'm going to keep my eye on, though, because it is kind of related to Disney, I'm going to kind of see. Have you guys seen the trailer to this Spellbound movie, the new animated film from John Lasseter? He moved over to Spellbound, a new animated film from John Lasseter. He actually moved over to Skydance. Now, George, you've seen the trailer. We did a video on it. Correct. But I'm very curious how that movie is perceived, critically, and how much how much of a success it is overall with the numbers, because that is kind of what's the word for it? That'll kind of make or break, I think, the idea that like Disney needs Lasseter. If this next movie from Lasseter doesn't really perform, because the last one, Luck, didn't do great either. You know what I'm saying? I mean, most people haven't even heard of that movie. It was really culturally irrelevant. If this next one comes out and it's kind of the same thing as Luck, that's kind of interesting. It kind of makes me wonder if, like, what was the decision Disney made to let him go? Was it the right one or not? You know what I'm saying? It's going to kind of determine it, in my opinion. Because look, a lot of times, like you look at a guy like Jeffrey Katzenberg, for example, he did great things with Disney in the right environment. Sometimes these people can kind of work and they can foster and make something really great. But then you separate them from that group and you put them somewhere else, and the product isn't that great. Like I love what Katzenberg did at Disney with Lion King and that Renaissance era. But then once he did his own thing at DreamWorks, I was like, I don't know, the magic ain't there anymore. So I'm very curious to follow that John Lasseter story.
What was the reason why they let him go?
Katzenberg?
Yeah.
Or Lasseter?
Oh, Lasseter.
Oh, he at Pixar, there were internal complaints with human resources that he was getting real touchy with the women. The females in the office, giving hugs maybe a little longer than he should, stuff like that, lingering, So that's the allegations. That's what happened. And then he was suspended for like, I don't even know how, like 6 months or something.
I believe he was suspended. I do believe he still was paid. He came back just as a consultant, but they had removed his office out of both studios because he had one for Disney Animation and Pixar. They removed him, but he was on consultant, so that means like I guess people can get in touch with him, like maybe via
working from home,
basically. And and then I think he had a severance pay, I think too. Like they kind of gave him a little gift basket, so to speak, on his way out. So now I don't know like what the logistics of like what went on and everything. I mean, I won't even get into that, but I will say, when it comes time for when I watched the preview for Spellbound, and I feel like at times with a lot of these creatives like John Lasseter and Jeffrey Katzenberg, despite of how you see them as individuals, as people, that it almost seems like that when you work for Disney, it kind of puts you under that microscope, that it pushes you to do your very best. And then kind of like when you take a step back and you're removed from that microscope, you kind of you have less of pressure than to kind of like push yourself. Because honestly, from seeing the preview of Spellbound, what it reminded me of, the type of animation style was, I don't know if any of you had seen the movies Hoodwinked and Happily Never After.
Yeah, it's very similar to stuff like that. And that's why I'm kind of surprised because, and it could be a fantastic movie, but I'm kind of surprised because this guy created
Xbox.
But it looks like, I mean, this guy created some of the most iconic animated films of all time. You're talking about Cars and Toy Story. And that's why it surprises me that now this is the second animated film out the gate for Skydance on his watch. And they're kind of, you know what I'm saying? But the reason why I bring him up is because we're talking about a lot, like, can Disney maintain the success? And I think he's part of that equation. A lot of people contribute a lot of the animation, maybe setbacks lately in regards to like him leaving. So that's why I'm very curious with him doing his thing, how the films are on that side, so something to keep an eye on. And again, Spellbound could be absolutely incredible. The trailer didn't do anything for me, but you never know. It could be an absolute banger, so we'll see.
It's not.
I think the real question for a lot of these properties is, it's the same question you would ask Apple. It's the same question you would ask Samsung. It's, do you know the criteria by which you generate revenue and generate a lot of it, right? And I think that the problem is that necessarily has not totally been defined because the marketplace shifted pretty heavily. Disney has shifted pretty heavily. All the other studios are trying to shift pretty heavily. And the question is, well, what actually brings people into theaters? We know that Oppenheimer does. We know that Barbie does. We know that Deadpool and Wolverine does. We know that certain properties will get people into the theater. And like our friend Alia, who's in the chat, so shout out to Alia, says all the time, the only way to test and learn when you don't know is you got to reduce those budgets. So It's one thing to bring Hugh Jackman back, and it's another thing to bring Sean Levy in to direct the thing, and it's another thing to bring on all the cameos that everybody wanted to see from the Fox universe, especially. That's one thing. The other thing is, how can you replicate that process again? And I don't think anybody knows that yet. Nobody knows that yet because we don't have that criteria nailed in. Now, I think this year, and I really love the D23 announcements. We talked about that on Tone's channel. I liked a lot of those announcements. I thought a lot of those announcements were headed in the right direction. I think some of those announcements were course corrections, like the Daredevil show, where it was like, this show isn't it. We got to go back to what Netflix was doing. That was a huge success. I think that Disney is learning from their mistakes and learning fast, and I love that. But I would not be surprised, and I hope nobody gets disappointed if we still see some of those learning moments where it was like, oh, that wasn't it, right? Because I don't think we're on a track where we can say, yeah, we know what the modern day audience wants for sure.
Yeah, no, 100%. Go ahead, Tones.
I was gonna say, I do want to raise a question that I think is kind of important. And it is a genuine question. Do you guys think the failure of something like the Acolyte negates the success from Inside Out 2 or movies like that? Because like the Acolyte and that failed pretty bad because of the them not renewing it for a season 2 like as soon as season 1 ended. I mean, the news just came out that season 2 is no longer. Does it negate that success because of how much of a failure that show was? Or do you think it's just one of those things where it's okay, some can hit, some can miss, but some can actually do good? Because I'm curious on what you guys think about that.
It's interesting. I think optically overall, it's not ideal for Disney because you want the headlines to stay focused on Inside Out 2. You know what I'm saying? You want those headlines. You want, record after record after record after record. So Disney's not thrilled with that, that the Acolyte didn't do great. Yeah, I think optics wise, it definitely caused a little bit of a black eye for Disney, and at a bad time when they should be celebrating Inside Out 2. I mean, they've had a string of hits now with Deadpool, Wolverine, and Inside Out 2, and then to have everyone, not everyone, but like media outlets and what have you, focus on the Acolyte kind of falling flat. I think that is a black eye for them. But what say you, George, in terms of like Tone's question in regards to Acolyte? Does it kind of poison the apple, so to speak?
I don't know if it necessarily poisons it, but it definitely creates some flies around it. That I think if, especially when something is being hyped up, that it's like, this is going to be the greatest next thing since sliced bread, and then it falls short, and then it gets people to say, well, what is it going to take for them to say something and it's actually going to be good of what they're saying? So it's like, how can we trust them to say, okay, this is going to be great. You guys got to check this out. And that's why for me, and I really hate saying this is why I don't want to say gave up on Lucasfilm, but I slowed down my heels on it a bit, especially with the content that's been coming out now. The trailer that we saw for The Mandalorian and Grogu, that gave me hope that, now again, to Jay's point earlier, it does not necessarily mean Star Wars is back. It just means this particular movie is great. It's good. It's a banger of a movie.
It looked fantastic. It really did. But yeah, being back is more about consistency, I think, right? I think that's kind of like the overall kind of tone of what we're trying to say.
And I feel like, and what does kind of concern me, and there's nothing wrong, I get it, with people's concerns about why is Disney doing sequels? Well, guess what, folks? Disney's doing original stuff. So, if you want to support it, go out and see it. Now, I can't tell you if it's going to be good or bad, but definitely give it a chance. Now, when it comes time for the sequels, at the end of this year, we're going to be getting Moana 2 to kind of cap off as far as like what the animation goes. But moving forward, we're going to be getting Toy Story 5, Zootopia 2, Frozen 3, Frozen 4, Frozen 5, Frozen 6, Frozen 7. That thing is like immortal. But no, like Frozen 3 and 4. And I believe Jennifer Lee confirmed that they are in production on both of them simultaneously.
Which I like, actually, because I think that's good for the story. But that's a whole other conversation.
Right. But right now, so I feel like Disney is going to be solidified as having gangbuster numbers with those films. But again, to OG's point, to Jay's point, these are stories and characters that people are already familiar with.
Right.
When is it going to come to a point where we get that new Zootopia, we get that new Inside Out, we get that new Frozen?
That's what
and
we
it's
need.
Like, that's what's kind of concerning me. And I feel like Disney, as far as the Disney animated studios go, I feel like they need to kind of go back to their roots, so to speak, and go back to fairy tales and musicals. I think they have to kind of get out of the notion of what Pixar is doing. Let Pixar be Pixar,
right?
And let Disney Animation be Disney Animation.
You have two studios for a reason. Otherwise, why have Pixar and Disney if they're going to make the same kind of movies? But Jay, I'm curious, what are your thoughts on that? To Tone's question, I mean, does the Acolyte sort of put a little bit of a stain on the success of Inside Out 2, or are they, in your opinion, two very separate things?
So I think my viewpoint on that is that industry people see it as, are you winning or losing based on numbers? Fans don't see it that way. As we talk in our circles, right? We're not talking about like, well, what kind of numbers did it do? We're listening to Twitter and whether or not people who are happy or mad or whatever they are, right?
Twitter's a good place to look, by the way.
Yeah,
it is.
totally.
That's why I leave there all the time.
It's totally a healthy environment.
Oh yeah.
But everyone's having.
If you need a real pick me up, go to Twitter.
Yeah, exactly.
And so there's two different questions that we're actually asking. One is, what's the financial performance of the company? Disney's killing it this summer in terms of financial performance of the company. The other question is, and this is what I'm referring to, is can you sustain that over time? That is a quality metric that is sustained over time to bring people into theaters, right? Because the reality is, the more you produce a less than on par product, people will stop using it, right? Like they'll just look at the competition, they'll go watch something else. So the question here is that from an industry perspective, I don't think the Acolyte matters. Right, the industry does not care about Acolyte anymore than it cares about anything. In fact, the industry look at this from a shareholder perspective, right? If you're a shareholder and you're just looking at the numbers, you're looking at Disney and you're going like, they seem to be figuring it out. They made a lot of money this year in theaters, and they canceled or didn't renew the show that wasn't pulling the numbers. So if you're a shareholder and you just want stock value to go up, you're looking at that going like, okay, I understand that. We don't look at things that way, because we look at things as like, I'm a fan and I want the things that I like to be renewed, and the things that I don't like, I want those to be canceled. So here's the difference, is that in my mind, I think we're seeing some really positive signs from Disney. We're seeing Disney say, oh, look, we did a show based on the High Republic, which is based on a bunch of books that not everybody in the fandom has actually read before, right? So if there's not a bunch of books that the fandom has actually read before, and we're releasing a new show on that, and the show costs $180 million. It's not starring Obi-Wan Kenobi. It doesn't have Darth Vader. There's a bunch of characters that you've never seen before. What's the chance that show performs extraordinarily well? It's lower, right? Yeah. If you're bringing back Hugh Jackman and you're bringing in Deadpool, and you're going to put together a bunch of cameos and make people laugh, that's going to perform. So the difference is here is that I believe that Disney's learning its lesson. I believe that even Lucasfilm, the slowest one of the whole group to learn its lessons, is actually learning its lesson, because you notice how the Rey film, which was getting very kind of shaky ground feedback, has been deprioritized. Mm-hmm. Mandalorian and Grogu, the thing that prints money. I mean, how many people have I bet you half the chat has a Grogu somewhere in their house, right? On a t-shirt, you got one. Yeah, you guys have it right in the room. I bet so. They've prioritized that because they know that that's a banger. So I think Disney's figuring it out really well. But along the way, they are going to have some. They're going to have some shaky ground where fans of the Acolyte are like, "Man, I don't know. Like, you canceled my favorite thing," and it's just what it is. They're looking at the numbers and they're trying to figure that out. So,
yeah. You know, it's a very interesting, great take, by the way. And Maybe agrees here to listen to Jay's
What's up, Maybe? Shout out to Maybe.
The best on social media. Absolutely, 100%. Thanks for joining us, Maybe. But the interesting thing about Lucasfilm, Jay, when we were at D23, George and I noticed, whenever Lucasfilm was represented on stage, whether it be for like video gaming or where like movies or TV or even the parks or whatever, it was always Filoni on stage. Like if they had like all the studio heads, like if they had like Feige and like Jen Lee and Pete Docter and all them representing the other studios, it was Filoni representing Lucasfilm. Yep. And the only time Kennedy came out was with Harrison Ford, right, to present the Disney Legend Award for John Williams. Right, that was it. I thought that was very telling, and I know that YouTube and like the internet is abuzz with like Kennedy conspiracies. She's going to leave any moment now. Oh, she's already gone, right? Yeah. But I do think that is pretty telling, though, that you're the head of the studio, but you're not showing, you're not on stage with Feige, and that was kind of weird to me. You know what I'm saying?
Well, and not only that, but I mean, like Kathleen Kennedy. I love Kathleen Kennedy, right? There's no Kathleen Kennedy slander on my timeline. That doesn't mean that I think that she should still be running Star Wars necessarily. That's a different topic. But I love Kathleen Kennedy because Kathleen Kennedy has made so many films that I personally love, right? Here's the thing, though. Kathleen Kennedy chose to go specific pathways with Lucasfilm. And not all of those pathways have worked out. But the pathway that has worked out has tended to be Filoni and Favreau. And so those guys have their movie coming out next year, Mandalorian and Grogu. And I think that Lucasfilm is trying to emphasize that as much as possible. And I think it's probably wise of them to do so. They need to have some hits because look, if you're putting out lots and lots of hits, you can put out a few bombs and nobody notices, right?
Exactly.
But the problem is if all you have in front of people's faces is controversy, you can't escape that controversy. So I think that Lucasfilm is doing a better job of that. I hope that 10 years from now, we can look at Kathy Kennedy and say, like, look, she's amazing. She's produced some of the best movies of all time. And let's be celebratory of that. But Lucasfilm has kind of wavered in the last few years, and we need to get back on track.
Well said, Jay.
That's a quick question before we move on from Lucasfilms. Now, Dave Filoni was just hired for. Can you remind me of the position he was hired for? You guys remember?
I don't remember the exact title. But
he had an overlook. He had more overlook from what?
Yes, he got promoted. I think he's like the chief creative. I don't remember exactly
Chief
what it was.
Creative Officer.
There it is. There it is.
Now, do we take the cancellation of the Acolyte as one of his first projects that he's been in position, and them releasing a project when it comes to Lucasfilms? Do you consider this like one of his first projects since he's been in that position?
It's tough because we talk a lot about residual stuff. Like I was talking earlier about how like a movie released today is really a product of like 2021 or whatever, because it takes a long time. And Acolyte's been in production for a while. He kind of came in, if I'm not mistaken, he only got promoted like a year and a half ago or something like that. If I'm not mistaken.
I could be wrong, but I think they were still in the middle of filming.
Right, that's what I'm trying to get at. Where it's like I feel like that was something that was probably in the pipeline, and it's like, sometimes you're stuck with something. You know, you come in and it's like it's already too far along. If I'm not mistaken, and correct me in the chat if I am wrong, I think he's only been in this new position for like a year and a half or so. So it was something that was already in the pipeline.
The reason why I asked this question is because like people are going to wonder, is this a good start for him? Because it just happens to be one of those projects that came out, you know, a year or so after his position was upgraded. You know,
this article that's talking about his promotion was in November of 2023, so it's been like 7-8 months. I'm like,
okay, cool,
pretty new still, yeah. So I think he can get a little bit of slack right now, but I mean, in 2 years from now, if we're having these problems, it's all him. Then, you know,
100%.
You know. But Mr. Seymour Duck gifted one OG55 membership. Thank you so much, Mr. Duck. We do appreciate it. What's up, Seymour? We love Mr. Duck. And our good friend Lucas and Disney said gifted 5 OG55 memberships. Thank you, Lucas.
Can one of you guys gift one to me? Because I still haven't signed up and I need to sign up still.
There we go. And speaking of Jay, if you're a member, you can check out his short film.
Yeah.
No Vacancy. We did like a watch party with the cast and the crew with Tones and George were there as well. And we reacted and talked to the cast about it. It was a great time. So if you're a member,
I love that show. You guys did such a good job of like hosting that show. I was so stoked to do that. That was so cool. Thank you guys so much.
Yeah, no, we had a blast.
And really quick, I just have to add on for the memberships really quick that you know, we want to thank everyone for, you know, joining and participating into the memberships, but we are going to do something kind of fun that whenever we do hit 100 memberships, that we will be gifting a $100 gift card to one person who continues on with the membership. So whenever we do hit that will be a special giveaway that we have set up for you guys.
Absolutely. And Lucas with a very, very generous $50 super chat. Thank you so much, Lucas. We do appreciate you.
Yeah.
And we were at D23 because of Lucas. So we forever grateful. And we had a great time with him. He was really, really fun. We had a really, really good time. But he said, I was there when I met Kathleen Kennedy at D23, and she refused to meet anyone else and pushed all the fans out of the stagecraft panel. Security refused to identify her too for those who didn't know why they were being pushed out of the panel. See, that's interesting. I feel like they were trying to shield her from like any kind of drama or something. And maybe that's why she was limited on stage too. And maybe that's why she came out with Harrison Ford when she did come out, because you're not going to boo when Harrison Ford's standing next to you, right? So something's up with that. What do you think, George? What's your take on this?
Oh, absolutely, especially at the Legends ceremony when they were honoring John Williams. When both of them came out, I'm like, okay, that is definitely a cop-out. Like, she needed Harrison Ford to be kind of her knight in shining armor, because I think that was Disney's intention, to always just have Kathleen Kennedy honor John Williams, and they're like, oh, this isn't such a good idea. She needs someone to go out on the stage with. So who better than Harrison Ford, who was in Star Wars and who was in Indiana Jones, that worked alongside with John Williams and what have you. So that's where it kind of was the fit. As far as what Lucas had seen, I mean, it doesn't surprise me that, probably for security purposes, for her own safety and well-being, because she is, can we dare to say it, not well liked in the community, that they just wanted to be on the
safe side,
the safe side. And I think it's and I think that also too, to actually say that she refused to meet anyone, I don't think she would have had a problem with meeting people, but in the position that she was put in, because of the negative backlash that she's been getting. I mean, if I was in that position, well, then again, I wouldn't be in her position, because everybody loves me.
No, that's true. Well, and but see, that's the problem too with Kennedy a little bit, right? Is that she kind of feeds into this beast a little bit. Like, she already feels very separate from the fandom. She feels very buttoned up and very corporate.
She's not Tomorrow. She's not like Tomorrow, who's like taking selfies. You know what I mean?
Exactly. She's not even like a Bob Iger. You know what I'm saying? No. And it's like, she feels very disconnected. And then now you're going to have security whisk you through the expo and guard her, and no questions, no pictures. It just feels like you're creating more of a divide with the fandom. You know what I'm saying? And if it's that bad, then you got to get someone else to run Lucasfilm. If you can't even have your head of Lucasfilm walk the expo floor, I mean, that's a huge problem. What say you, Tones? I know you had some thoughts on this, brother.
No, I mean, I just think it's sad that it comes down to that. And the name of the actress is escaping my head, but she was in the Acolyte. She did made a video about how toxic the Star Wars fandom is, and same thing with Game of Thrones fandom. It is fucking disgusting how toxic these communities are. And at the end of the day, of course, we want good entertainment, but at the same time, that we're all human fucking beings, and it's as simple as that. Like, don't, unless you're being personally disrespected and bullied or whatever the case may be, like, what's the point of being nasty to someone? Like, especially Kathleen Kennedy is getting so much hate all the time because of failed projects when it comes to Lucasfilm, and it's just sad. It's disgusting.
No, you're right. There's one thing to be disappointed with how she's run the studio and have real honest critiques, and you don't like the direction of the studio. That's all fair.
Yeah.
But when you're out there and you're saying disgusting comments, and you're there's no excuse for that. But like I said on many videos, you're never gonna find a happy hater. There's always something behind that. There's always something behind somebody that's constantly, even if it's against a celebrity, they got something going on in their life, some issues, and they're projecting and they're venting, basically. What say you on that topic in terms of Kennedy and stuff, Jay, and at the expo and what have you?
I don't know too much. So my thoughts are this. When it comes to the fandom, I put out a tweet today that said this, actually.
You actually tweeted?
I tweeted today. I tweeted for once.
It wasn't just a GIF either.
Right?
Yeah, it wasn't. I always say GIF. You guys you're on the GIF side. I'm on the GIF side.
I'm on the GIF side too.
Actually, I think I'm both, to be honest with you.
You switch back and forth.
Yeah, I think.
So I put out a tweet today that just said, I think a lot of what gets misconstrued is we are living in this real world, and then we're living in this online world, right? And the online world it's not the same as the real world. So, for example, there's a lot of people who may be in a really challenging place in their life, and it's not like social media takes a second and tells you like, are you in a good emotional place to be typing on your keyboard right now? Like, it just lets you do it, right? And you just put it out there into the world. And so if you had a bad day, you were cut off in traffic, somebody gave you the finger, whatever happened, right?
Sorry.
Then the reality is you might show up at your keyboard and you might act like an asshole. The other thing is there are literally people in the world that are paid by their government to sow discord, especially in the United States, right? Like, so there's people on Russian bot farms. There's bots that are out there trying to sow discord amongst the population. And the reality is that the hate that you see online is always going to rise up to a level that's really just not probably even realistic, right? And I think that we just miss that a lot because we are as humans. Like if Tones was to suddenly come out to me and be like, bro, your movie was garbage and you are a shit person, I'd be like, oh, I'm devastated, man. I love Tones. Like, why would he say that about me? But like, think about how easy it would be to type that about a movie that you saw that like your childhood was based on all of these Star Wars properties that you loved, and this latest one just wasn't doing it for you. How easy is it to say something stupid, right? But I think that gets misconstrued, it gets blown up, it gets turned into something that's like, it wasn't even supposed to be that in the first place. And that's just because I don't think that the factions that end up fighting, I don't think that they're as big as we give them credit for. So the next time you start to look at that and you start to be like, oh my gosh, like all these haters are out there saying the Acolyte should have been canceled, or all of these toxic positivity people are out there saying like, oh, it's the best show ever, and I can't be a Star Wars fan anymore because the other people are just bigots. It's like, okay, there's a small portion of them that are, then there's a bunch of them that actually have reasonable views, and we're not going to be talking about the reasonable views because we only have 140 characters, we only have 288 characters or whatever it is to say what we're going to say. You remove nuance from the equation, it's mostly stupidity. So like, and I feel that way. That's why I'm not on Twitter all that much, because if you remove nuance, it's mostly stupidity.
It's basically just screaming pixie duster, grifter, pixie duster, grifter.
Exactly.
I'm okay with background checks for social media. Let's do that.
Exactly. All right, our good friend Seymour Duck is alien. Seymour
This guy's
Duck
got some great takes, man. You got to follow Seymour because he's got some great takes, and he will fight the grifters to the end of the world.
Yes, he will. Yes, he will. Seymour's awesome. We love Seymour. Is Alien Romulus a flop? Some say it's a flop since it's not giving blockbuster numbers. Some say it's not since its budget was 80 million. 80 million is like a Minion movie.
Exactly, dude.
I mean, that's nothing. Also, what would you consider a flop? Seems very subjective. So I actually brought this up. Let me bring this screen up real quick to give a little context here. So this is courtesy of Collider, which I didn't even know Collider was still around, to be honest with you. But hey, they are. Good on them. Alien Romulus overtakes Alien Covenant's lifetime domestic box office haul in just 11 days. So it says here that so far, the movie is already the fourth biggest hit of this franchise and the third biggest of the main series. So it's already grossed 74.3 million domestically in just 11 days of release. By comparison, Alien Covenant generated 74.2 domestically in nearly 100 days. Look, that's not huge numbers in 11 days, but I think there's something to be said when it only cost 80 million to make.
100%.
Right?
100% OG.
So you're on the same page, like it's a hit for you?
Yeah, I mean, movies nowadays are over $100 million and like over $150 million. Still probably look worse than this movie. I haven't seen the movie. I've seen the trailers, but it's still the cinematography looks great within this movie. Now, $80 million is nothing nowadays, which is crazy to say, but it's not much nowadays to make a big production movie, like especially with actors and how much you have to pay them nowadays. But just in general, but making most of your money back in the first 11 days compared to other movies that took 100 and something days. No, you can't call this movie a flop. You can't. And all the good things I've heard about this movie, is what's confusing to me. Is you hear, I've maybe heard one or two things where it's like, oh, it's okay, but no one slammed this movie yet that I've heard of, or the reviews that I saw. Everyone said good things about this movie, so it's a bit confusing.
Well, and I think what a lot of people do too is like when they go on, like myself, I go on like the box office results, like on Box Office Mojo and what have you, and they look at the overall revenue that a movie brings in. And it's almost like that they look at for a specific number, and it's like, okay, if it's over, $280 million, it's successful. It got to hit that 300 million, got to hit that 400 million, where a lot of times you have to look at the production value of what the movie cost, right, and how much that they're getting back in return. That is what makes a movie successful, is depending on what the budget is and then how much they are making in returns. Yeah,
if I do a garage sale and I spend $1,000 on signs and promotion and all that stuff, and I make $800 at the garage sale, $800 in and of itself, man, that's amazing. You made $800 selling your old crap. That's incredible. Yeah, but I spent $1,000 promoting it, so I'm in the hole. So that makes all the difference in the world when you the budget, and the fact that it's only 80 million is very, very good. But here's the thing too: I don't see movies very often. I think the last movie I saw was honestly Indiana Jones Dial of Destiny. I mean, that's how long we're talking. A family member of mine wanted to see Alien Romulus, and I took one for the team, and I went with him. and I'm not a fan of this franchise, and I actually really enjoyed it. I thought it was really good. I liked it.
The best 2-hour nap he ever took.
Yes, exactly. Oh man, it was fantastic.
But we saw Oppenheimer. Did you see that after?
Oh, yeah. Okay. Was that before Indy or after? It might have been Oppenheimer, then my last one.
I think it was Oppenheimer. When I was not there, you and I went to see it.
Okay, so it was Oppenheimer, but that was still kind of that same.
Wait, so that was the last time you've been to the theaters?
Yeah.
Really? Oh, okay.
Oppenheimer, yeah. It was Oppenheimer. So yeah, it's been a while, but I went with a family member. He wanted to see it. I went, and I liked it. I thought it was a cool movie. The kids were awesome in it.
I'll say this: you missed out on Dune in the movie theaters because it was such a great experience, bro.
Yeah.
Such a great experience.
Yeah, that's a theater movie for sure.
Oh yeah,
I just love it when we give like movies to see, and then OG's like, oh yeah, I'm definitely going to see this, and I'm like, yeah okay, he's not seeing it.
For sure, it's on my list. It's on my list.
I'm making shirts, bro. It's on my list, and I have OG's face on it.
OG's list is as long as a CVS receipt.
So here we go. My list.
Oh man, that's funny.
Lucas and Disney with the $10 super chat. Thank you so much, Lucas. We do appreciate you. He says here, since the Acolyte's cancellation, Amandla is now being attacked constantly and trying to use Ahmed Best, Jake Lloyd, Kelly Marie Tran, and John Boyega as their shields, saying they deserved better. That's interesting. I don't really know. I know Tones, you said I think this is the gal you said made a video, right?
It is. Is that her name?
Her, yeah.
Amandla, yeah.
She made a video of it. And what sucks is all this hate came out even before the fucking show dropped. And it's even worse now because of how, unsatisfied the fandom was. So she made a whole video of her telling us that she's been attacked, not, like virtually attacked, but it's still bad nonetheless. But yeah, it's insane.
There are some people out there, I think, you got the culture war crowd and all that stuff who are gunning for certain things, like you said, Tones, before it even comes out. If audiences reject something organically, it's all good. That's just the way the market is, or whatever you want to call it, but there are some things like this show, because of the gal who God, I forgot her name at
Leslie Headland.
Leslie Headland, thank you, Jay. Because of Leslie Headland, there was certain part of the fandom that was kind of rooting for this thing to go down. Let's be honest. You know what I'm saying? So it wasn't like this organic thing where like this thing got released and just people didn't like it. There's an element of a campaign to kind of like, shit on it. And that's the reality of the situation. Now, does that mean the show is good? I don't know. I haven't seen it, but to kind of ignore the fact that campaign didn't exist and that didn't have some impact on, the scores on some of these websites when people are going in there and downvote. It's none of it's organic. You know what I'm saying? You just got to watch this stuff yourself.
If there's a hint of any woke anything, it sucks. It just gets sent down right away before it even comes out. And that's exactly what happened to the Acolyte. But also franchises like the Acolyte or like Star Wars, like Marvel, like freaking Game of Thrones, if there's something that comes out and it's not brilliant and the best thing you've ever seen in your life, it's going to be shut down anyway. And we're in that day and age where unfortunately that happens.
Yeah, no, well said, Tones. Mariana Barbera with a $10 super chat. Thank you so much, Mariana. We do appreciate you. Mariana here says fans should have the right to express how terrible Lucasfilm has been run the past few years without being called haters, but it's important to do so in a respectful manner. 1,000%.
Exactly.
That's exactly it, Mariana. Look, I'm upset with Lucasfilm. I think we need new leadership. I really, really do. I've been saying this for literally years, but there's a way to do it, and there's the ball bag way to do it. You know what I'm saying? You just kind of have to just be a human being about it. That's basically all people are asking, I think, at this point. Mr. C.
Go ahead,
Tom.
Can I just say one thing?
Yeah.
The only thing that you should do if you dislike something is articulate what you dislike. Mm-hmm. And be respectful of the other side of the coin of what they liked about it. And that is how conversations start. It should be as simple as that, but it's not, unfortunately.
Yeah, but where's the fun in that?
Two really quick points about
Sure.
Alien Romulus too before you move on.
Sure.
One, and Sean put it in the chat here, but it has made $230 million. It is not a flop. Anybody who says it's a flop doesn't understand movie revenue and how movies make money. That is actually a hit. It has made money. There will be probably more Alien movies because Romulus made money. Here's and by the way, it's not done making money either. So it's crazy.
11 days.
Yeah, it's crazy. But the couple things I want to point out. One, this is what the OG55 crew, including Alia, has been saying for a long time. Figure out how to work your franchises. If your franchises are suffering, figure out how to spend less money on them, because we already saw this with the Predator franchise. They spent less money on Prey and released it on Hulu. Prey was outstanding. Now they can make more Predator movies, but they reduced the budget to be able to make the movie. And I think part of the problem that we're seeing in the modern day is that I'm reading Quentin Tarantino's book, Cinema Spectacular or something like that. But it's amazing. It's a really good book because he just talks about stuff in really interesting ways. And he's talking about all these films that were released, and all these films that were released had smaller budgets, man. Today's theater experience is demanding that it be a giant, big, like Tone said, Dune, right? It's got to be Dune for you to go to the theater to see it. And I think it's just changing the economics of movie making. But
100%.
I think that they really need to do a better job of scaling back the budgets. We've already heard Iger's already said this. Scale back the budgets and make higher quality, less quantity, right? So we know that they're going to be on the right track. It's just a matter of anybody who's telling you that Alien Romulus is not it, they just don't know what they're talking about.
Yeah, or they're purposely trying to spin some sort of narrative or something.
Oh, and one other thing really quick. Bellany was talking about this today. It's one of the few films that's doing phenomenal in China. If I'm remembering correctly that they were talking about, that's a huge win because the American films have tanked in China recently. So that's another big deal that needs to be discussed.
Yeah, well said, Jay. And another thing too, we talk about budgets. This film had an $80 million budget. Like I said, it's like a Minion movie basically, right? And I saw it and I didn't notice any poor quality CGI. It felt like a typical summer blockbuster. So you can have those budgets reined in and still have a quality film. So I think this is a perfect example of that.
Well, and also too, I was just on with Tones on Candid Campers channel, and we did a review of a horror trailer.
Speak of the devil.
Yeah. Yes. Hey, Candid. But we kind of got on the conversation about big budget studio films opposite of independent, low budget films. And I had mentioned that sometimes I go more towards the low budget indie films because those to me feel like the underdog when it comes to filmmaking, because they have to prove their self-worth, that they have to put a small budget together and take whatever they got and literally run with it and make a spectacular film. And 9 out of the 10 times it's very successful, where with a big budget studio film, it's like, again, they kind of rely on their laurels to say, okay, well, this is a big budget, and a lot of times the movie comes out crappy, when it's like, oh, I could tell that this is like crappy CGI, or this, where a lot of times with independent low budget films, they use real practical effects. And sometimes that comes out even better than using a computer CGI technological, effect.
Right. Well, that Godzilla -1 movie I heard was made on a shoestring budget, and it looks amazing.
Yeah, 15 million or something like that. It was so low. Yeah.
So fucking good though.
Yeah, it's so good.
So good.
It's on my list.
better hurry up. It's on Netflix.
Yeah. Mr. Seymour Duck here says, do you think Hulu on Disney Plus is hurting the Disney brand? In my opinion, I don't think so. Look, and I said this so many times, but not everyone watches every video. But Disney, when Michael Eisner took over, they created a bunch of these different like studio labels, and they even acquired one. I think they acquired Miramax, but they created Touchstone and like Hollywood Pictures and what have you. And they did this because they wanted to get into more generalized entertainment, because you can't do the raunchier stuff on the Disney label, so you do it through Touchstone and what have you. Well, Disney was releasing movies like Roger Rabbit and Splash and all these movies, right, that you really they at the time didn't feel like they were appropriate for the Disney brand. Okay. But it was no secret that these movies were Disney, though. I mean, especially with Roger Rabbit. Like, they released it under Touchstone, but Roger Rabbit, he was like, George, he was all through the parks. I mean, this guy was like everywhere at Disney MGM Studios. They built a ride for him in Toontown at Disneyland. I mean, they had expansion plans like the Disney Decade to build a Baby Herman buggy coaster.
Buggy bumper.
Something or other, right? So it's like, here's the thing. It's like, okay, so you have Touchstone, which is supposed to be the more adult thing, that like the reason why you make Touchstone is because you don't want to have it under that Disney umbrella, but then you're throwing all those IP anyway in the parks, right? And honestly, did Disney's brand suffer from that? In my opinion, I don't think so. So it's the same thing with this. You can have the Hulu tile on Disney Plus. You put your parental controls on. Parents know Hulu's not for kids. Disney Plus is. I think it's fine. At the end of the day, I don't think it hurts the brand at all. But that's just my opinion. What say you, Jay? What do you think? You think it kind of tarnishes the brand a little bit, or not so much? Or
I think so. Okay. There's a way to answer this question subjectively. There's a way to answer this question objectively.
Give me 1 second, Jay. I'm just going to order my pizza. Just give me a second.
If you ask me a question, it's going to be a lengthy answer.
Yes, I love it. I love it.
I think subjectively, we're all going to look at that and we're going to say, how do I feel about the aggregator that Disney owns? Because Hulu's an aggregator. It takes content from everywhere and displays that content, versus the Disney-made, Disney original umbrella, of course, but Disney original stuff in Disney Plus. Subjectively, you can have whatever opinion you want, right? It's like, go ahead and say what you think. That's what you think. The objective reality is that is a shifting landscape. Societal values change over time. Societal impact changes over time. There's a reason that Touchstone fades away. There's a reason that they start launching new stuff under Fox instead of Disney, right? In other words, the way that things are perceived is your brand, right? So the question here is it hurting the Disney brand? That's the that is our perception. That's why we go to subjectivity faster than we go to objectivity. Disney just looks at it and says, are we getting more engagement by having Hulu on Disney Plus, or are we getting less engagement by having Hulu on Disney Plus? And that's what they're going to make their decision based on. Everything else is how you feel. Now, I'm not discounting how you feel. I hope you feel a way about it and you can articulate how you feel about that. But in my opinion, it doesn't hurt the Disney brand until it starts to. And they will know, because they'll start to see, oh, having Hulu on here is actually it's actually causing people to cancel their subscriptions or whatever, and then they'll back off of it, just like they backed off Touchstone at one point in time. It's going to be the shifting sands of how the populace is viewing it at the time. That's what I think.
Well said.
Can I say something real quick?
Sure.
I think because of these bundles, like this should be something that isn't even discussed as a negative thing because of what we're getting to the platform. Like you don't have to. I'm not sure what the bundle is for Disney Plus and Hulu, and I believe they're adding on something else, if I'm not mistaken, on the Disney app. But you're getting these bundles for pretty cheap if you're paying Hulu and Disney separately. So you're getting a lot of these movies and new TV shows that were on or are on Hulu and Disney Plus, and you don't have to pay a bunch of fucking money for it. You know what I'm saying? Just put parental control on there. It's a simple. It might be a band-aid on it, but it's still like, you know, still a solution.
Absolutely.
Well, and I think too, Tones, what you were saying, I don't know if this is what you're referring to, but they just started the Disney Plus Hulu Max.
There you go. Yes.
And I actually switched to that because I was a subscriber individually to each of those subscriptions, so I just bundled it all into one little gift pack, if you will.
And it's cheaper, correct?
It really is. Yeah. It's like I think it's only like $30 for all three, no ads.
Oh wow, that is pretty good.
And so I think my only teeny tiny little issue, not with really Hulu being on Disney Plus, I love it being on there. I love where I could just get everything there at once, one platform. It's just the setup. Like when I go on to Disney Plus, and that's the main headliner of it, all I see on there is all Hulu stuff. And it's like it kind of throws you off the balance where I would want more of the Disney stuff in the front. And then it's like, okay, then you can click on the Hulu stuff and then you can kind of bring up a whole separate page. But it's like, it kind of just, it gets a little bit lost in translation at times. Like when you first enter the Disney Plus app, that it's like everything's just all jumbled. It's just all like mixed in together. That's my only small little gripe about. I mean, but does it ruin it for me? No. Does it discourage me from ending my subscription? No. That's just my little OCD pet peeve.
Well, you look at a TV station, a TV studio like ABC. I mean, it's no secret ABC is owned by Disney. It's been owned by Disney since the mid '90s. That's how we got Bob Iger, actually. That's ironically enough. Right. He was a weatherman over there, and he worked his way up. The American dream,
Yeah, really?
Oh, yeah, he was a weatherman back then, bro.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah, best hair in the biz. No, but yeah, he worked his way up, and then Disney acquired ABC, Cap Cities, and the rest is history. But ABC is owned by Disney, and everything on ABC isn't family friendly. I mean, they have some pretty, some of the stuff on there isn't like, your Disney audience necessarily, but it's a Disney brand. ABC is a Disney brand, and it hasn't hurt. I don't think it personally. And Jay, you're right. It's all subjective. You know what I'm saying? But in my opinion, I feel like it's the Disney brand is still known as a family brand, even though the ABC shows might not necessarily always be family, and ABC is owned by Disney. So it's interesting. But we got Mr. Seymour Duck here with a $10 super chat. Mr. Seymour Duck, thank you so much, brother. This is for Jay and Tones. We need more live streams with them in it. Good takes. Absolutely. We love Jay and Tones.
Thank you.
Seymour.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Seymour is the man. He's awesome. Mr. T.S. Wade, I know I said this before, but are we ever going to see the Muppets again, even if only on streaming? I think so. Hey, look, as Disney has failed so many times with the Muppets, and they continue to make Muppet stuff. It's actually kind of like shocking how many times they've attempted this. I think we're good. I think we're gonna see some Muppet stuff down the road again. Absolutely. What say you, George? You think we're gonna see any more Muppet stuff, or is it end of an era?
I think right now Disney utilizes the Muppets because they do own the property, but I feel like the way that they're utilizing them is kind of the safe bet where it's kind of successful in its own right. Like they've been utilizing the Muppets a lot with like live presentations. Like, for instance, they utilized them for the last Destination D23. Had no connections of any kind of major announcements to the Muppets, but they just utilized them.
Right.
They've done several Muppet presentations at the D23 main fan event. So it seems like they utilize the Muppets for like different kind of content. I don't know if they'll necessarily go down the route again of like another feature film or another series. I don't know. I don't know if the Muppets, see, we all grew up with the Muppets, so the
Nostalgia.
tattoo is pretty much permanent, you know, with the Muppets. But the newer generation in today's demographic, I just don't see the likelihood that kids are going to lean towards the Muppets. And it's sad to say, but it's just the truth. And actually, speaking of the studio side, that's basically what Toy Story 5's main plot is going to be about. The toys have to face the reality that kids today are on gaming systems and using technology, iPads, computers. So when you take something that kids nowadays would look at and say, oh my gosh, like that is so old fashioned. Who wants to sit and watch a bunch of puppets? You know, it's like, unfortunately, it should be a downright sin, you know, but unfortunately, it's just the way that it is. And I think Disney knows that. They see the numbers and they have to kind of give and take what they can get out of them.
And I can tell you this, T.S. Wade, here on OG55, we are keeping the Muppets alive.
Cake!
There we go. We have a cake drop with the one and only Cookie Monster. There we go. So the Muppets will always be a thing here on the channel. I do want to bring this up because Mr. Duck always brings the heat. Mr. Seymour Duck says, hey, Dana Walden came from Fox. I see a pattern. That's how we love Mr. Duck.
Who is that?
Dana Walden is like the heir apparent to Bob Iger, basically. She came from Fox, and she's like she's on like, not only is she on the short list to like replace him, but she's like the favored one. So Mr. Duck is saying, you know, Bob Iger came from ABC, he became the CEO. Now Dana Walden is sort of the favored one. He's starting to see a pattern here.
Gotcha.
It's pretty funny.
You know, you guys know the best Muppet movie that's been made in the last few years was the Chip and Dale Rescue Rangers movie that came out. And I'll tell you why. It doesn't have anything to do with the Muppets at all, but it was the perfect kind of tone that the Muppets are supposed to have. So one of the reasons why I think that the Muppets brand is struggling, and I'm a fan of the Muppets brand. So T.S. Wade, I'm on your side. Let's make some more Muppet stuff. But if you go back into the early days of the Muppets when it came out as a TV show, I think in the 70s or 80s, it was not just a for kids show. It was a parody of variety shows utilizing ridiculous puppets, right? And it was if you go back and watch that, the humor is not just for kids. It's not to say that it didn't attract a kid audience, but it was very much adult humor in there. And I feel like the Chip and Dale Rescue Rangers movie that came out, I don't remember what it was called. You guys remember the name of the movie?
I don't, but it was a fantastic. I love that movie.
It was great, and if you watch that film again, it had adult humor and it had kid humor, and it mixed all of those through, and it brought in cameos and it had jokes about cameos. That's what the Muppets have always been. So there is an audience for that, but I think in the 90s and the 2000s, Disney kind of lost sight that it was primarily an adult property, with also drawing in kids as a part of the humor. And they kind of just went like, we think it's a kids thing, and they just never got it right. Like they never got the pattern right with the Muppets. And so I hope if it does come back that it feels a little bit more like the Chippendales film, as opposed to
which it would give me a little bit of hope if they do, because Disney kind of got that little gist from Deadpool, and especially like how they incorporated Deadpool into the park. So it's like if Disney can hone in onto that, like, okay, there's a fine line between where it's like it could be for both kid and adult, where it's like it's cutesy for kids, but then there's like those crude one-liners where like
Yes.
only adults will pick up.
Right. And you know who actually did that perfectly was the Warner Brothers animation back in the day. The Looney Tunes, the Animaniacs. They were able to it's a kid show. Like, Animaniacs was like a, after school kind of cartoon, but as an adult, if you were watching that, there was that innuendo in there where the kid wouldn't understand it, but you would.
It's Roger Rabbit as well, right? Like Roger Rabbit's the same thing. Like if you can hit that, then the Muppets will be successful again.
Yeah.
Tell me, Eddie, is there a rabbit in your pocket, or you just happen to see me?
I'm telling you, man. That's why Eisner made it touchdown. There it is. We got Bad Thought Studio here. Why is Tones Poppy so sexy? Let's break this down, Tones. We got to break this down. George, what do you think? Why is Tones Poppy so sexy?
Well, I think honestly, it's just his presence. Like he just comes on and he's just like he has like this kind of like this chill kind of like toned down, but he's just like inside. He's just like, yeah, soak it up. I'm a sexy motherfucker. It's like
well, he's a poppy. You know what I'm saying? He's a poppy.
Oh shit! Yeah. I was not expecting this, guys.
We love Tones. Absolutely love Tones. Anything you want to add to this, Jay?
Oh no, I was gonna say the same thing. Like you take Tones and you give him like let's take Paul Newman back in the 70s, right? You can't throw him off his game. He's cool as a cucumber the entire time. That's exactly what it is.
There is.
See, this is why like I'm here and Jay is here. See, I just referred Tones as a sexy motherfucker, and Jay just like went one step further. He's like, no, he's the Paul Newman.
Yeah. I'll take Paul Newman any day, bro.
There you go. Absolutely. Our friend Marianne, the girly nerd, is in the house. My question, what is it going to take for Disney to make the kind of dramas and adventures they made all the time in the 90s and early 2000s? Is it possible? So the kind of content, I think girly nerd, and correct me if I'm wrong, Marianne, but the content that she's referring to is like the Mighty Duck movies, right? These kind of budgeted, like kind of family movies, kind of comedies, A Kid in King Arthur's Court, Angels in the Outfield, The Sandlot, like these kind of movies.
Okay, OG.
You know what I'm saying? What do you think, Tones? You think that Disney should kind of get back in that game a little bit?
Oh, hell yeah. Those are I mean, you can't go wrong with any of those movies you just mentioned. Sandlot was one of my favorites. Like I grew up playing baseball my whole fucking life. So watching something like The Sandlot was like that movie. Like I would watch it over and over and over.
I just got done watching it. That was the movie that I watched on my plane ride back home.
Yeah, so, see, it's something you could go back to, and for sure, but if they can make movies like that nowadays, fuck yeah. Like,
see, I want them to make those kind of movies, but again, even like with the Mighty Ducks, like they even had some like edgier moments, like where they're reading the Playboy magazine, and the older boys came and said, "You wouldn't even know what to do with this." Like, even though like it's like as a kid, you don't really know what they're talking about, but like watching it as like an adult, you're like, oh, so that's a little sneaky little trick that they added in there. But I feel like that when Disney kind of goes back to that kind of genre, like for instance, we were at the studio panel for D23, and Dwayne the Rock Johnson came out and was talking a little bit about Moana 2, but then he stayed on stage and he's doing a new movie. And we thought he was going to bring up the live action Moana. Well, no, he came out and started talking about he's doing a movie with monster trucks. And I even forget what even the title of it was. And like people were just like so confused at it that it's like, okay, like we didn't ask for this. Like, why are you wasting your time? Like it could be a good movie. It kind of falls into that genre, but I feel like that Disney still misses the mark on those kind of like lower end movies where it's like some of the movies that OG had mentioned, like A Kid in King Arthur's Court, Angels in the Outfield, the Mighty Ducks, like all those were like Operation Dumbo Drop. Like you watch those and you're like, okay, I don't know. It just kind of takes you back to a moment where it's like, okay, this was good movies, even though it's like wasn't like the major blockbuster. But I don't know, like I feel like that if Disney does go back to that, they have to hit all the right notes.
Yeah, I mean, by the way, this is a great trip down memory lane because we got Blank Check, we got Heavyweights, we had the Big Green. I mean, come on, like, these are all
yes.
like I loved all those films. And here's the interesting thing. We have not seen again, culture and art are this weird interchange of like what's popular, what's not popular. You've seen like the downfall of like really a lot of comedies. You don't see hardly any romantic comedies anymore. You don't see any kind of raunchy. You see very few raunchy comedies anymore. Those were like hallmarks of the 70s and 80s, and even bled into the 90s. I think a lot of it has to do with the types of creators that exist and their ability to strike into the current culture and how the current culture is moving and shifting, and really attune themselves to that. And the 90s and the 2000s were that kind of culture that was kind of like, look, we don't have it all figured out, and we can still make fun of kids who go to a fat camp, but learn how that's not the most important thing. Their body image is not the most important thing. Nowadays, you can't make that movie. You can't make that movie because that would be fat shaming, right? So I think what is happening is that we are in an era of film that is like you can't touch certain subjects. Even though when we experienced these films, when I was a kid in the 90s and in the 2000s, well, I wasn't a kid in the 2000s, but I was a kid in the 90s, and those films, it was okay to go there because the message would come back around at the end to teach you something about how the way the world worked. And like, if people are making fun of you for this, don't worry about it because they're the jerks, right? And I just don't think we're in a place where that kind of film can be made right now and be received by the audience as something that is like okay to do. So I don't know how we're going to get back there. I hope we do though.
Yeah, me too. Well, and it's crazy. You look at the content. I mean, the content I grew up on too, like even on television, like In Living Color, the stuff they did on In Living Color, they would never do that today. I am telling. For those of you watching that are too young to remember the show, like just go on YouTube and just search In Living Color. I mean, it would never happen.
Married with Children.
Oh,
Yeah,
Married with Children. Exactly.
Oh my God, yeah.
You could never do shows like this today.
No.
Never. So yeah, it's
And
wild.
by the way, I think a lot of those shows they did. I mean, comedy by definition will overstep its bounds. So there's a lot of times when you'd be like, "Oh, that they went too far," and as long as the culture goes, "That's okay," then we're fine. But if the culture goes, "That's too far," no, you can't see that anymore. I mean, what are you gonna do? If you're Disney, you don't produce it.
Exactly. You got to follow with what people are what they want, basically. Friend of the channel, Kaylee with 2 E's here says All Star Sports versus Motel 6 by Disneyland.
This is for me. This is why I love Kaylee. It's like she just like comes up with these like random questions that it's like you don't really think about until you're asked, and you're like, oh, geez, yeah, that's interesting. Let me think about that for a second.
Now, why All-Star Sports in relation to
so with All-Star Sports, out of the three, because there's All-Star Sports, All-Star Movies, All-Star Music. All-Star Sports is where a lot of the cheerleading teams, a lot of the Little League kind of teams that come down and travel with their schools or their centers, they do their training and their competitions in the ESPN Wild World of Sports complex. That's majority of the times where they stay. So when you have a lot of times families, couples, or even just solo trips that you're in a hotel with a bunch of like rowdy tweens and teenagers in their cheerleading outfits and their baseball uniforms or what have you, sometimes it can get a little bit monotonous. So I mean, All-Star Sports is probably like my least favorite hotel in Walt Disney World, but to say the least, I would still take that opportunity to stay in it opposite staying off property. Yeah, as long as I'm staying on property. But the Motel 6, now here's the thing. A lot of people can dog on Motel 6 because of their reputation in the name.
I was about to say, have you ever seen a good-looking Motel 6?
Actually, here's the thing. The Motel 6 Anaheim main gate, it's not like super ritzy, but I will say it is very
It's clean.
moderately decent. Yes, it's clean. It's
I honestly, I like came out there with one gunshot wound. It was awesome, dude. And it was a leg wound. It was all good.
So, but I mean, the pool was nice. The jacuzzi, the rooms are very spacious.
Yeah, no, it was
we
nice.
never really had any issues. So, to answer your point, your question, Kaylee, I still have to go All Star Sports only just because it's a Disney Resort hotel, and it's just
Look
like,
at you,
yeah.
pixie duster. Look at you, pixie duster. Shame on you, George.
Do me a favor, George. Next time, because I brought up last time that you need to start blogging every time you go to Disneyland now, or go in that in the park.
A
You also
George
need to-
vlog would kill, dude.
Yes, vlogging. Excuse me, vlogging. Yes, but you also need to bring a black light if you stay at Motel 6, and I want you to vlog that too. All right.
Black light.
Bring a black light.
Yeah, absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely.
But the real question is, if I do that, am I blacklighting my own, or is it?
Before and after, we'll do before and after.
Well, yeah, we'll have to do a forensics on it. You know, there was a I don't want to mention the hotel because we don't want to trash the hotel, I guess. But there was a hotel and resort in Nevada that was terrible.
Yeah.
That almost killed the
Almost-
Italiano.
yes.
Food poisoning.
Yes.
But we won't get into that. There's a pending litigation on that one.
By the way, do you guys say Nevada or Nevada?
I say Nevada.
I say Nevada. Oh,
Wait, now
I say Nevada.
Wait, I gotta
Nevada.
figure
Yeah,
Let's see,
Nevada.
wait, I have to use it in a sentence. That's the only way that. Let's see. I have a layover in Nevada. No, I say Nevada.
Yeah, but say
What
downtown.
we need Hey Bricky to say it how George would say it.
Yes.
That's what we need.
Yeah, well, because I say like if I would say like downtown Disney. See, I just said. See, I don't say downtown.
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
Downtown.
Downtown.
And it's funny, people at home, it's funny if you watch this on the replay and you have the captions on, when George says downtown, it doesn't say downtown in the caption. It says Dan Town. They go DAN Town. It's hilarious. Absolutely hilarious.
Awesome.
But Jay, speaking of Bricky, that he always gives me shit like with my Pennsylvania accent, especially if I say like if I'm talking about Coco, in the park. If I say Coco in front of him, he'll go, "Oh, you'd be Coco."
That's so funny.
Kind of sounds a little bit like Cartman there, though,
And
too.
you guys got to hang out a little bit at Disney too, didn't you? With Bricky.
We did, yes. Actually,
Awesome.
I got to hang out with him actually on my birthday, which was
so cool.
awesome. Yeah, so
that's awesome.
he ended up getting us a huge Italian pizza with prosciutto and arugula.
Oh, nice.
You know, he said we have to go Italiano fashion. So he treated me to a birthday lunch and he took me
Nice.
around the
That's so
parks
cool.
and showed me all his little spots where he loves to film and how to kind of beat the crowds and all that kind of stuff. So it was a really good time.
Nice. Any Parmesan on that pizza, George, or no?
Oh, he does the same thing you and I do. He adds yeah, I know you don't add the Parmesan, but he also got he got the pepper flakes and everything. So yeah.
Oh, he's a man of taste. Okay. Kaylee here with 2 E's follows up with worst food in the parks. Woo.
Let's all say it at the same time. 1, 2, 3. Turkey
leg. I have I can't even look at those without getting nauseous because in my younger years I'm pretty wild. I would drink at Disney, like no joke. But I had like 2 or 3 black pearls at DCA, feeling pretty good, but those are pretty strong. And I got the munchies and I just chowed down on the first thing I saw when I walked by. It was a turkey leg, and I got really sick. Ever since then, I can't even look at those things.
Okay, so really, but here's the thing though. If that didn't happen, would you be into the turkey leg? Was it really the turkey leg that made you sick, or was it the black pearls mixed with the turkey leg?
See, that I don't know, because that was my first kind of foray into the turkey. Yeah, it was my first time getting one, so it just kind of ruined the whole thing.
I think the drinks mixed with the grease, like just.
I think so.
I can't look at a turkey leg. I can't look at the Disneyland turkey legs anymore because of what we discussed. I think it was either on the podcast or your show, but we were talking about Cannon brought up injecting the fucking turkey legs, or someone injecting it in the
Oh,
back?
that was me.
It was you. Okay.
Yeah,
Bro.
they inject the
fucking gross.
turkeys like with this kind of like salt water base kind of thing where it's like it holds all the juices, so when it cooks it like absorbs and it just holds everything in, so when you take a bite like all the juices just flow.
Oh, God.
Don't get me wrong, I love turkey legs, but it's not at Disneyland.
Yeah. Ugh,
By the
I don't know.
way, OG just low key just worked it right in there that he can get drunk at Disney. I mean, he got paper.
I got
He's got
paper,
money.
yeah, exactly.
If you get drunk at Disney, you got money.
And you know what that means.
Money drop. You gotta do
know
it.
what that means. Here we go. Here we go. We were talking about this in the DMs today, that when you ever hear money now, you think of that.
Dude,
Yeah.
I think every time I hear money, it's instantly that clip and then Lil Wayne.
Brand new money, brand new hundreds, got a bunch of zeros like a bag of new Funyuns.
There it is. There it is.
Just like Funyuns, man.
just like a bag of Funyuns. You know what I'm saying?
That's right.
So what say you, Jay? Worst food in the parks? Like you go to Disney, you had something, and it was like, this is terrible. Have you had that experience with anything there?
I mean, I don't. Same. The turkey leg is not one of my favorites, so that's the easy one. I'm trying to think of any really, really bad experiences I've had with Disney food. I mean, here's the thing: when I used to be a pass holder. I'm an old school. We don't call it magic keys, man. This is back in the day. When I was a pass holder, I would like literally watch all the food reviews, whether it was Thingamavlogs doing food reviews, or whether it was Dave from Fresh Baked, or whether it was Magic Journeys is kind of newer, but I would watch them doing food reviews, and I would go in there to go get the best food. I wouldn't mess around with the shitty food, right? So, yeah, I don't know. I can't remember a time. I was at Knott's Berry Farm as a kid and had a hot dog and puked in the car later on.
Oh.
So yeah, no. But Disney, I've had pretty good luck. Usually with Disney, the thing I would complain about the most was if I got an alcoholic drink that was just so sweet and over sugared that it was just kind of like, why did you? This is not a drink. Like, this is a dessert in a cup that you added alcohol to. Like that's it's vodka, so you can't even taste it. Like that's what I would say is some of the worst stuff. Some of the drinks are just not good.
Yeah, and I think that's why the hangovers from the Disney drinks are so bad.
Oof.
Because it's the alcohol and all that sugar.
Yeah.
It's just you get those headaches like right behind your eye. It's
Yeah.
worse. It's worse.
Yeah,
So I think it's either
level right there.
It's Sade. She's one of my buddies.
Sade. What's up, Sade? She's got the two emojis right there, just summing up those turkey legs, right? Right, Tom?
That's it.
Yeah.
That's it.
Awful. By the way, we were so down bad. Me, X-Rod, and Candid. We were so down bad at like drink at Disneyland that X brought in moonshine fucking pickles. I think I told you guys this story before.
You did.
Yeah.
You told Jay though. You told Jay the story.
I haven't heard the story.
Oh, you gotta tell the story.
So we were in line at Disneyland, and X grabs his backpack and pretty much takes out some pickles.
Yeah.
And I'm like, bro, why the fuck do you have pickles in your backpack? I was like, anyway, and then he's like, dude, these aren't just regular pickles, they're moonshine pickles. So he had a fucking baggie full of moonshine, the juice, and then the pickles. So we ended up eating the pickles. It was actually pretty good. I'm not a big pickle, I don't like eating pickles, but it was actually pretty good. But the juice ended up falling in his fucking backpack, and it ended up stinking so bad.
Dude.
Jeez.
Hey, I'll tell you a good one though. Go to the Carthay Circle Lounge. Speaking of pickles, get the dill gin and tonic. The dill gin and tonic is a banger. You will like it. I can't drink that much anymore because I got the long COVID and drinking doesn't always go together. But that if I'm gonna have one drink a month or something like that, I'm gonna save it up for
That's
that.
That's it.
Absolutely. All right, next question is from Mr. Todd Hensley. Mr. Hensley, thank you so much for joining us, sir. Friend of the channel. Todd says here, Robert Downey Jr. recently said in a podcast interview he had been approached by Bob Iger about an idea related to the parks. Any idea what that would have been about? I'm
assuming this would be about the Avengers campus with the Stark flight and also Infinity
the defense. See, I can't see.
Disney needs to do something with these titles because they're driving me freaking nuts. It's like,
what did you think it was?
I don't know what the hell I said. I said Infinity something, but but I think that's what it was because Demaro at D23 showed a photo of Iger and Robert Downey Jr. on the testing vehicle of the Kuka arm of the Stark Flight Lab. So I'm assuming because they did confirm that he's reprising his role as Tony Stark in both attractions. So,
it had to have been that. It had to have been that, 100%. And maybe here says we need a Tones Poppy ASMR video. What about that, Tones?
I got you, maybe. give me a couple years though. Give me a couple years.
Dude, I'm telling you, like those ASMR video channels blow up, dude. It's like crazy.
Oh, they make bank.
We need a Tones ASMR channel where he reads from Game of Thrones.
Oh yeah,
yeah, dude. Yeah.
If I ever did like a ASMR video of like anything, the amount of grilling that would happen to me would be. You could write a book about how much fucking shit I'm gonna get.
I can see Tones doing a Game of Thrones ASMR, like tapping on a sword.
I know, right? Twirling a fucking dagger.
Yeah, exactly.
I'll have to be down bad as fuck.
And then it cuts you, and then you hear the.
Yeah.
Sorry, folks. That's the blood dripping off my arm.
I don't know if you guys seen, but he has the wig. He has the Targaryen wig. I've seen him wear it.
Oh yeah. Oh,
hey!
There it is.
There it is.
We were for the finale. It was pretty fun.
That is awesome, dude. That is absolutely awesome. That's fantastic. Starship 824 here says, how do you think Agatha is going to do? I'm very nervous, not only about the quality of the show, but I feel it might go the same way as the Acolyte with the hate. See, I don't think it's going to go the same way with the hate because there is a culture war element to the Acolyte.
Because you actually need people to watch it in order to hate it.
Well, not necessarily, not in this day and age, but no, I mean, I don't think it's going to get the same hazy Acolyte. The Leslie Headland stuff, I think was a big part of that whole equation. I don't see that here. I could be wrong though. But what about you, Tones? What do you think of Agatha? You think it's gonna? I don't know. What do you think? Is he gonna suffer the same fate as Acolyte, or?
We kind of discussed this when we were breaking down the D23 things on my channel, but I have to say this because I don't want to get taken out of context. We hope we see a fucking banger when it comes to Agatha, but unfortunately, it doesn't work like that. Like the hope is what we want. You know, we want to see good cinema, of course, but something like Agatha just doesn't. And no one really asks for something like this. At least no one in my circle that is be like, oh, what do you guys think about an Agatha movie or an Agatha TV show? It's never been brought up, but you never know. It might be a fucking banger. And kind of like what Jay was saying when he was on Bathhouse Studio, Andor was the same way. No one really asked for an Andor show, and it's one of his best Star Wars films of all time. So it might be good. We hope it's good, but as far as a potential or like a guess of how it's gonna do, from what I've seen, it's just not that intriguing.
Honestly, the audience at D23 showed no really enthusiasm when it came to the trailer or them coming out on stage. There was nothing really. There was no pulse. I'll say
it wasn't as bad as the Percy Jackson one, though.
That was worse. That was a snoozer.
That was Golf Clap City. Like that was Golf Clap for sure. But what say you, Jay? What do you think, Agatha?
Yeah, so I think one of the lessons that Disney should be learning is that if you're going to do a show about a character who is not one of the tentpole characters, right? Tentpole characters being the characters who hold up a franchise, Captain America, Thor, the big guns, if you will. If you're going to do a show about a character who is a lesser known character, then you have to have a really compelling story, and you have to get your budget down. Because if you come in with this giant budget and you come in with a story that's kind of lackluster, there's nothing to keep people there. There's nothing to keep people involved. And so even in Secret Invasion, which I watched the first episode of and went, this show is not for me. I'm not interested in Secret Invasion. That had Nick Fury. So we're talking about like there's Nick Fury, and then there are degrees of separation between Nick Fury and Agatha, right? Agatha's been in one show. And I just don't know that it's I love Catherine Hahn. I think Catherine Hahn is phenomenal. You're not going to say anything bad about Catherine 100%. Hahn. She's hilarious. When she does dramatic acting, she's phenomenal. She's a great interview too, by the way. Whenever I see her interviewed, she's phenomenal. I just don't think that this is the kind of thing that Marvel show fans are asking for. And so I agree with Tones. I think it's going to be one of those things where it's like, look, it better be an awesome story, because if it's not, and you better keep the budget low, because why was Acolyte canceled? And just to be clear here, I was not an Acolyte fan, right? It had nothing to do with people's race or sexual preferences. I just didn't like the story. I thought the story was convoluted, and I think that they should have greenlit the Acolyte for 4 seasons right up front and taken their time with all of what they were trying to do. It would have been a much better show if they were able to do that. So my point is that was $180 million show. It didn't get canceled because of the haters. It got canceled, as Alia is very quick to point out. It got canceled because the juice wasn't worth the squeeze, right? There was too much money going into that thing and not enough viewership coming out of it. And so they said we can't keep doing this. I have a feeling that Agatha can do a good job if they keep the budget down and they tell a good story. If the budget creeps up and the story is lackluster, I don't think it goes very far.
Now, real quick, Jay, what would you consider a low budget for something like this? Because again, we're talking about Disney, so Disney. Low budget is hard to come by, especially when it comes to Marvel.
I mean, I would have said, what's that?
Not doing it at all.
Yeah. Well, like so when I say low budget, what I'm referring to is like you got to do the entire season for like. So let's just compare like Mandalorian, which is like $10 million an episode or something like that. If you're doing Agatha, you got to come in at like $1 to $2 million an episode at most. It's got to be low, and that's difficult to do if you got to have a bunch of effects and stuff. So we will see.
We will see. And it's crazy. I was telling George this at the expo, but like there's this genre, this kind of like this witchy craft stuff. There have been shows like on Netflix. I really dug the Sabrina show. I mean, it's totally not my demo, but I enjoyed it. Even that Wednesday show, I think it was also on Netflix.
Wednesday was great. Yeah, it
was great. Yeah, it was fun. So I think there's a way to do an Agatha kind of show that could work in that same kind of like spirit of like a Wednesday or of a Sabrina. We'll see if they tapped into it. Abigail, wow, Jay saying on OG brand with the juice not being worth the squeeze. Absolutely. That was fantastic. Well played, Mr. Sheer. Mr. Seymour Duck here says, according to Robert Burnett, who is awesome by the way. I loved him when he was on John Campea show, who spoke with an unnamed industry insider. The upcoming Disney Plus show is actually really good, and that it will really surprise fans. So I believe he's talking about Agatha. So that's encouraging. That's really encouraging, because Robert Burnett isn't like, he doesn't give Disney a lot of like slack. Like he's pretty tough on Disney. You know what I'm saying? So for him to come out and say, hey, this is actually pretty good. Okay. Definitely.
And we hope it is. We hope it's a fucking banger.
Yeah.
Yep, 100%. Papa Morty says here, what do you guys think Disney's biggest movie will be in 2025? What do you think? What do you think, Tones? What you got?
I mean, I'm assuming Fantastic Four is coming out in 2025. So for me, it's Fantastic Four. Or what's the other Marvel movie coming out? Wasn't there one more? Or am I tripping?
Oh yeah, there is. Brave New World.
Yes.
Yeah.
There you go.
Right. Good.
Now,
pull,
it's as much as I want to say that because of Red Hulk and spoiler alert, who haven't seen the trailer, but Red Hulk's coming back. That I hope is a good storyline, but if not, it has to be Fantastic Four. Just it's a nostalgia thing for me because it was so great back in the day. But not just that, the actors that are in this movie are fantastic. So that's one I think is going to be the best in 2025.
Yeah, I would agree with Tones on that. I'm going to go with Fantastic Four. I love the. Oh, is that 2025?
Fuck, never mind.
Never
So
mind.
I get back. Avatar.
Yeah, I mean, it's probably going to be.
I recant my statement.
Yeah, probably going to be this one. What say you, George? Avatar?
Yeah, I think it's a safe bet. It's going to be Avatar. I think.
No, don't bet against James Cameron. I've learned my lesson with that.
Yeah, he's like holding my beer.
I think you guys are way off. I think it's going to be Snow White for sure.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Oh, wouldn't that be wild though if that really was the case?
Would be wild.
Oh my gosh.
But I do think so. This is an interesting question. Like, what's going to make the most money versus the one that I'm most interested in?
Yeah,
I am a moderate Avatar fan. I'm not an Avatar hater, but I think Avatar is like it's just not my favorite franchise. I loved the first Zootopia, so I'm very excited about that. And I also love Tron. So for me personally, if you're asking me what I would like to go and see, those two are going to be huge. And then I think people are going to be all about the live action Moana.
Oh yeah.
I think it's going to be, I mean, Disney's 2025 looks huge. It looks like it's just banger after banger, to be honest.
Wait, Moana's a live action?
It's going to be.
They have a live action one coming out, and we got the animated sequel coming out this November.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So there's two. I didn't know that. I thought there was just the third one coming out.
Yeah, Moana is huge. Like it's pulling major numbers on Disney Plus. I mean, Moana could run for president and probably win. So
exactly.
It's pretty serious. Let's see here. Let me go ahead and we'll do one more. Then we'll kind of take off today.
Really quick.
Sure.
Can you just hold that one? I just want to bring this up real quick because I just want to confirm this really quick.
Sure.
Yeah, so there was a little bit of a scare done at Magic Kingdom that apparently somebody was shouting out gun in one of the merchandising stores. Cast members had to react. They pulled everybody into the back rooms, had everyone go out on Main Street, but it is confirmed. It is in the clear. It was a false alarm. They don't know really what's been going on, but everybody's safe. No issues. So I just wanted to
That's good.
confirm that.
Yeah, no, that's good news. I'm glad it was a false alarm. Absolutely. Mr. Seymour Duck here says Daredevil is a good example of a low budget. The Netflix Daredevil series from 2015 cost $3.3 million per episode with a total of 39 episodes. And that show was absolutely incredible. To this day, one of my favorite things Marvel has ever done.
It is my favorite show of all time. It's my favorite TV show of all time.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, that is wild. Absolutely wild. No, it was great. It was great. That was one of those shows, Jay, where like I'm watching it and like an episode would end. I'm like, okay, next one, let's do it. Exactly. Like I think I just spent like a whole weekend just watching the whole thing, you know?
Yeah. And Disney did again, we're talking about Disney making the right moves. They had retooled that whole thing. And then they went, you know what? Why don't we just go back to what worked before? So I'm stoked about the new Daredevil because I think it's going to be amazing.
Yeah, 100%. Lilo and Stitch, LOL from Sade. Yeah. Hey, I'm telling you, Sade, when we were at D23 and they showed that footage, the crowd went nuts.
I'm excited for that. I mean, it's one of my favorites of all time, Lilo and Stitch. So I can't wait for that one.
Yeah, I went nuts. Kyle the Mighty, when is Tron? Do you know when Tron is, George?
I can give you that real quick here. It does not have an opening date yet. I don't think it just says.
Okay.
They're thinking it's going to be December 19th, 2025. So end of the year.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, that actually looked pretty good, though. I was surprised, to be honest with you, because
but kind of going off of what Jay was saying a little bit ago, where it's like I personally feel that Avatar 3 is going to be the king of 2025, but I feel that Fantastic Four for me, I am more interested in. I'll still go and see Avatar 3, but I want to see where they take this film because the cinematography, the characters, the cast, the storyline, I want to see where they take the Fantastic Four because this was a long time anticipation for fans of them bringing Fantastic Four back to the MCU, but in the kind of like the Disney kind of canon fashion. Right. So yeah, definitely. I feel like Avatar 3 got the crown, but I'm I'm anticipating Fantastic Four out of all the movies.
I love that 1960s like space race sort of vibe that Fantastic Four is giving. I think it's amazing. Jesse Adventure here says, I forgot there was a live tonight. Oh, Jesse, it's cool, brother. We're going to do a lot of lives. Like, we're trying to get back into the live stream game again. We were kind of MIA. Well, actually, we only have another week until George goes back on vacation again. I'm not even joking. This guy's going on vacation again.
Wait, is it going to be another Disney thing?
Oh, yeah. Tell him, George.
Yeah, I'm doing what I'm calling a cruise sandwich. So I'm going to Florida. I'm going on the Disney Fantasy, then a few days at Walt Disney World, and then out on the Disney Wish.
Oh my gosh!
Can we just say one thing here?
Brand new money, brand new hundreds, got a bunch of zeros like a bag of new Funyuns.
George has bags on bags on bags of onions. It is ridiculous.
George secretly has a Disney sponsorship that we don't know about.
He totally does.
Yeah,
It's that special access.
yeah.
He's got special access. Absolutely. He's hiding it from all of us. Absolutely.
Tomorrow sends him unmarked bills.
Yeah, exactly. It's it's wild. But gentlemen, always a fun time with you guys. Total blast. I'll start with you, Tones Poppy. If you could let everybody at home know where they could find you on social media, sir.
Always a pleasure recording with you guys. Thank you so much again for inviting me. Yeah, guys, if you guys want to find me on social media, Tones_TV on all platforms. Go ahead and follow my YouTube channel, Bat Dot Studios. We do a bunch of TV shows, movie breakdowns. We do a lot of trailer reactions. So if you guys are interested in that, go check that out. And like I said before, we have our podcast. We are reviving it. We went a couple months without doing it, so we're going to be bringing that back. We have two new hosts with us, so we're excited for this, and I can't wait to put out some more videos, man.
Yeah, 100%. Make sure you subscribe to both the Bad Thoughts podcast and the Bad Thoughts Studio. And Tones, what's the official name of Candid's review channel?
It's either The Candid Camper or Candid Camper. Believe me, we've had this conversation. I get so mixed up, but I think it's Candid Camper.
Okay, yeah, and make sure you subscribe to Candy Camper as well.
Yes,
friend of the channel, awesome guy. We got to get back in the saddle with Candid. Fun guy. Jay, thank you always for coming on, brother. We appreciate you. If you let everybody home know where they can find you on social media, sir.
You know, the absolute best place to find me is become a member on OG55 and go watch my short film.
Yes,
it is on the film festival circuit right now. We're waiting to get some notifications about where we'll be able to screen it. But you can also find me here talking about the Story Geeks, which we haven't done in a really long time. And you can also find me on How Stories Work with Jay Sherer. And you can also find me over here with this guy talking about Game of Thrones. Those are some of the funnest shows that I've done recently. So if you want to watch some really deep dives into Game of Thrones and what the character motivations are and how they compiled the shots and how that all worked, go check out Tones on the Bad Thought Studio show, because that's fantastic stuff.
Yeah, well said. And in Italiano, where can they find you? Where can they find you, Sticky?
WDW, apparently.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. On the open seas.
Yeah, when I'm not at Disneyland or Walt Disney World or on a Disney cruise, or you could always find me on
Pizza Boardwalk.
Yeah,
that's true.
that is true. Picking up some pizza on the boardwalk, all that good jazz.
Always.
Yes.
That Italiano experience, right, George?
Yes.
I love that story, by the way. I love it.
I leave myself a little bit everywhere. Anyway, but if you'd like to find me on social media, you could do so on X, formerly known as Twitter, @DisneyGeorge. You could also find me on Instagram under the Disney Italiano. And of course, you could find me right here on my home base at Orange Grove 55 with Citrus Corner, with all that sweet, juicy, but sometimes sticky Disney news and info.
There it is. Everybody who joined us today, thank you so much. Really good conversation. We're going to try to do another live very, very soon. And I do want to apologize. We kind of blew up the notifications today. We had like 15 videos out today, I think. Something like that. But a lot of this stuff is kind of time sensitive because we never know when Disney's going to drop the official word. So when we make these videos, we got to get them out. So we dropped the Monsters video today. We got the Avatar video, and it's just, there's a lot going on right now. But a lot of content being made.
Can I say something real quick?
Sure.
For most people know you and follow you on your social medias. Yeah. Go follow OG on his social medias as well. He never shouts it out, but go follow him on social media.
Thank you, Tones. I appreciate that, brother. Yeah, you can find me on Twitter at OrangeGrove55. You can find me on Instagram, OrangeGrove55. Thank you, Tones. Appreciate that, brother.
And TikTok soon, right?
And TikTok too. Right, exactly.
On your list.
He had to
On your
sneak
list.
that one right in there.
You know, yeah. There's somebody over there at TikTok impersonating me. I gotta email TikTok. It's crazy. But but thank you all so much for watching this episode of OG55. And until the next time.
세상이 누구에게나 공평하게 추악해.